Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Paulie Eyes of Carbondale, the official coaches show of Saluki Athletics. Now, here is the voice of the Salukis, Luke Martin.
Starting off the show today with none other than Justin Fetcho, the head coach of Saluki Men's Golf. It's a big week for him and his Salukis as they will compete in the Missouri Valley Conference Championship later on this upcoming weekend. Coach, it's good to catch up with you. We caught up with you about 2 weeks ago, and here we are, championship week. How are the emotions for Coach Fetcho on championship week?
I know. It feels like I was just sitting in here.
I know.
And then here we are. It's been a couple weeks, and no, I think this is always the exciting time. You know, really, we're, you know, our league is, you know, it comes down to this, right? So, quite honestly, it doesn't matter. Everything that's kind of transpired through here, results doesn't take hold into the championship. What we got to take is all the things that we've been trying to learn and grow on throughout the year. We take the good, the bad, and we try to piece it together this week right here, you know, for 54 holes of golf, and we see who comes out on top.
The last time we had you, and again, so many of our conversations have centered around, look, you want to structure your schedule in a way to get you ready for this type of event. And I know last week or earlier this week you were out in Iowa. Of course, I know the weather was really challenging, and you kind of mentioned in the recap that a little frustrated with how your guys handled those environments. What were kind of the reasons why you were frustrated?
You know, that's exactly like what we're talking about. We went to Iowa to prepare because our championship is hosted by Drake right up in Iowa. I mean, we're literally going to take the same drive just a little bit further to get to Drake. And so, you know, conditions, I anticipated were going to be very similar. You know, I mean, it was a lot of wind. We saw some different temperature ranges from, you know, one day we saw north wind, so it got cold, and then the next day, you know, it was a little bit warmer, and the winds blowing in different directions at different times. And, you know, I think that we struggled with making those adjustments to different style of the way that the course was, you know, knowing that we wanted to do one thing, but the conditions were really dictating that we kind of were going to have to approach it differently. So, you know, it was frustrating in the moment in that time, but we're hoping, having that experience of been there, that now those adjustments will hopefully be able to come easier for us if we would, you know, foresee something like that. I mean, they're going to be two different courses, not the same course, but, you know, when you're, you know, at a conference championship, and, you know, mentally you want to try to be as prepared for everything that could potentially come your way. And so I think not just Iowa, but even all of the events that we've tried to put on there, I mean, it's just been different things here or there that hopefully we've just been able to pick up and just get a little bit better if we experience that the next time, so that, you know, when it comes to the most important piece, we're as prepared as we can possibly be.
Look, there are so many different variables when it comes, and no doubt the weather is a part of it. It is a uncontrollable, but you spend a lot of your time within your program, of course, working on the mental side with all of your athletes. I mean, that's such a huge part of this thing. And, of course, with the physical side of it, Coach Fetcho, what have you found that is most successful throughout the year to see, okay, what's the balance here of really working on that mental side of the game to make sure that all of your athletes are really locked in and ready to deal with all the different things that are going to come your way this weekend?
Right, and you've probably heard me say it a couple times here, but I think, you know, preparations is that big key. You know, I feel like teams or just individual players, like, I mean, if you feel like you are the most prepared person or team there on site, no matter, I mean, that's with your game, that's with the conditions, that's with the course setup, that's with, you know, any type of weather. If you're prepared for all of those things, like, it really, because it will happen, when the adversity or the thoughts or the weather or whatever rolls in, you kind of can have more of a calming sense because you've been there. You've kind of prepared for that moment, right? It's not like it's been one of those things where it's like, oh man, I didn't think this was going to happen, or I wasn't thinking this was going to go this way. And if you're prepared for those moments, usually you can kind of rise to the occasion. You know, I mean, I know a lot of people use that kind of term, but when you're prepared, you're kind of rising where, you know, if you're unprepared, usually it can just take a couple of things for you to kind of spiral in the wrong direction. And we've been fortunate to kind of have it to where we have been prepared. And that was, I guess, was a little bit of the sense of the frustration last week for me, is that, I'm the one that's supposed to be doing the preparing. And when we get in those moments, I wanted us to embrace that. And I feel like at that time we didn't. But now it's, we've got a couple of days to try to figure out how, when that happens again, how we're going to embrace that and be better the next time.
Of course, the guys you took, and we're going to have Anthony DeShooter come on the show here in just a matter of moments later on, but there's still a good chunk of guys that you do have coming back. Whether it was Frank, Leon, Oliver, you have a good chunk of this team that you have had competing here this spring that's had experience with you. How important is it for those guys to really shine in a week like this, where even if they've had some tough tournaments at this point, they've been in this tournament before, they've at least been around the tournament of seeing their teammates a year ago go through it and ultimately win it?
Yeah, I mean, I think experience is obviously important. When you've got some turnover, it makes it a little bit different. But if you've got people that have been there, people that have experienced that, you're able to kind of draw on those people. I mean, as much as I probably want our players to digest every last thing that I say, right? I'm sure that it coming from a teammate or a peer that's saying, hey, this is how we were able to operate this in times where we've been successful. This is how we've kind of operated when it hasn't been. Which choice are we going to make, for our program? And so I think, when you have senior leadership, whether, it's a guy like, Anthony, that maybe wasn't around last year, but he's a senior, he's got experience at other places, he's able to kind of share that with some team. Then you got people like Leon, who was a part of that championship team that came out right out of the gates on fire, opened up. I think he was leading the golf tournament after the first day. Like, he's going to be able to share that. I mean, you got Carson Silliman, who's been here for 4 years and been a senior and, or is a senior. And, he's got those experiences to be able to draw on, of being a part of programs that, where we've won a championship and part of programs that haven't. So, I mean, you're using, different guys' voice to hopefully, at this point of the season, understand what we need to do. And when they're drowning their coach out, at least they've got their teammates to share some knowledge.
I think the part for me, even though it's a good thing I don't get to play because I don't have athletic ability like a lot of the athletes that we have here, but when you get to Arch Madness, when you get to the FCS playoffs, when you get to the Valley Baseball Tournament, or fortunate enough for an NCAA regional, and all of your sports, same with you this week, when you know that you're competing for the ultimate prize, which is the chance to continue your season through an NCAA, there's a different feeling. And the juices that come to you because you can feel the magnitude of that week. What's it mean to play with that pressure, and how you do your best with your guys and your team to, one, embrace it, and two, is there anything you do to – I mean, everyone understands what's on the line this week, Coach Fetchel, but are there things that you try to do, whether in your preparation, on the travel, to at least keep it lighthearted, to just remember, hey, we understand the pressure's high, but this is the most fun time to be an athlete, which is competing for a championship?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good question. I think it kind of goes back to, the preparation piece of us preparing for this. I mean, we've known this week has been coming, right? But we've kind of almost talked about this from opening day. I mean, what's the goals? What's the aspirations? Where do we see ourselves? What do we want to do? If we want to make it to the postseason, we obviously know that we've got to have a successful week at the Missouri Valley Conference, most likely, to be able to go on into it. So, for us, I think it's the pressures and the magnitude of what it's still there. It's there for everybody. But I think, when we've been able to talk about it, put ourselves there, envision ourselves doing it, seeing ourselves as champions, as opposed to, the first time we're going to talk about it is, during the final round, coming down the back nine, like, oh my gosh, guys, we got a chance to be champions. No, like, this is what we've been preparing for, is to be able to do it. And I think, in terms of just going up on the trip, I mean, we'll try to make it as normal as possible, right? I mean, I think it would, not try to be like so demanding and so structured, but not try to be like, hey, we're careful. We just try to keep, we'll just try to keep the same the same stuff that we've been doing and try to make it as normal of a preparation week for us as we can, because I mean, at the end of the day, if we try to make it something it's not, we'll feel that, because that's not what we've been preparing to do, right? We've been kind of preparing to be who we are and learn from it each time and know what we got to do, and we just get out there and, I mean, and the guys have to see themselves as champions, right? I mean, that's what we talk about. I mean, before this even starts, like, I mean, they have to have already seen themselves there. And then if we're fortunate enough to be in that position, there we go, right? That's what we want. We don't want to go into the week, hope everything goes well, and then coming down and be like, I got a chance to do this. We already knew that. That's what we wanted. That was our expectation, was to be there. So hopefully we'll have that mentality here over the next couple of days and get to travel, have a good travel day, and then let the cards fall where they may.
No doubt, and hopefully you can have some strategic ways to lay those cards down well for you and the athletes this weekend. Anthony DeShooter is going to come on the show here after you. Anthony has had really a remarkable year, and we talked about him a lot the last time we had you on, and just kind of the pace that he's been on, the opportunity that he has. I know it's kind of a cliche in some of the other sports if you're only as good as your best player when you think of a team, but knowing the type of year that he has, and even though golf can be extremely individualized in terms of an individual and how they perform, how has he affected everybody else? And when you get to a week like this week, when you know arguably you may have the best guy on that golf course heading into this week, how that really changes the dynamic for everybody, and everybody knows, hey, we're with this guy every day, and if we can even somewhat fall in line with him, we're going to have a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I think this is one of those weeks that you're excited. Anthony's on your side, right? He's on your team, and I think that he's gotten better, but I think he has also tried to push that bar a little bit higher for other guys. I mean, I think that, yes, like you said, it's an individual sport. I think certain people's egos are that they want to be the best, and I think they want to beat Anthony, right? I mean, at a certain point, like, if you want to be the best, like he has proven that he's been the best on our team with finishes, with stroke average, with whatever, platform you would want to judge somebody on. I mean, he's proven pretty much time and time again that he's been our top performer, and I think that's pushed hopefully some of the guys to be better, and hopefully will rise to the occasion again at the event. But but also I think it would go back to kind of, it's a little bit calming as a team too, to know that you've got a guy that you're going to roll out there and you feel very confident that he's going to go and perform at a high level, because he has been, right? So from a team standpoint, it's not like we got to look at it and say, okay, we need 5 guys to step up and be this completely different version of themselves that we haven't been, and kind of get to another stratosphere. We've got a guy that's been playing some really good golf. We're going to be able to rely on him most likely, right? So I just need to go out and do my thing. And I think it hopefully takes a little bit of pressure off of the guys, in that regard.
It all starts on Sunday through Tuesday in Des Moines, Iowa. Coach Feccio and the Dogs looking to try to repeat, to go back-to-back years, and what an accomplishment that would be. Coach Feccio, we look forward to watching along this weekend, and we wish you the best. And, hey, let's have a show like maybe in a week with some hardware next to you. That would be nice.
Man, I would block off my schedule for that.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's the only reason you would block out your schedule for that. But we appreciate the time. Good luck this weekend, Coach.
Thank you so much.
Once again, that was Justin Feccio. We're going to take a timeout here on Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Poly Eyes of Carbondale. Anthony DeShooter joins us next to preview the Valley Golf Championship. Well, we just had his head coach here on the show on Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Poly Eyes of Carbondale. Now we have to get the true star of Saluki men's golf, Anthony DeShooter. He's taking time to join us. Anthony, thanks so much, man, for taking time, especially I know this is a big week for you and the rest of your team. When you get to this week, Valley Championships this weekend, Even though it's your first year here, you know what it's like to compete for a championship. What's the emotion like for you this week?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. No, yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, as a player, I think that's what you work for. At the beginning of the year, that's kind of the goal, is to try and win a conference championship and hopefully advance to a potential regional or even a nationals. So yeah, we're excited. I think the team is prepared. We've been putting the work on. We've been putting the work in. Like you said, you had coach here. I mean, he's also worked his tail end off just like we did in order to reach our goals. So yeah, we're excited. I like to think we're ready.
You transferred in, so this is your first year here at SIU.
Exactly.
When you entered the portal after your time at Arkansas State, what was most important for you when you were looking at that next stop, that next opportunity, and why Coach Feccio and SIU checked all the boxes for you?
I mean, my main goal eventually is to become a professional golfer. And as entering the portal, becoming a senior, I think for me it was very important to work with people that want to see me do well, that I agree with in terms of like golf vision and ideas. And I feel like, I mean, it's a beautiful place here. We got beautiful places that we can practice at. We have a good schedule. We played a lot of great teams, and then obviously coaches. I like to think we have a great connection. I feel like we kind of have the same vision, and I feel like we work very hard and very well. So yeah, that was definitely some of the boxes that were checked while looking at SIU. So yeah.
For you, for Saluki Nation, that maybe don't necessarily know your path, of course, grew up in Belgium.
Exactly.
Of course, now being here in the United States, describe what home is like growing up in Belgium, what you enjoyed most.
No, yeah, it's been a ride for sure. I was just playing a lot of golf back home. Actually, I started out playing tennis. I wanted to become a professional tennis player when I was younger, and then my dad took me to the golf course, and I got to experience the game a little bit, and then eventually made it to the national team back home. And I was I fell in love with the game, man. And then obviously came here, started my career at Garden City Community College. Had 2 amazing years there. Was able to develop. Then obviously made the transfer to Arkansas State. Didn't really work out there. Wasn't really what I was looking for, and then got very fortunate to be able to come here and get the opportunity from Coach Feccio to be able to play here, and I'm loving it.
To go from Belgium to Garden City Community College to Jonesboro, Arkansas, now Carbondale, Illinois. I mean, when would you have ever thought that this would be your path,
Never.
Anthony?
Never. I never anticipated on following this path. Like it's crazy where college sports and college golf, in my case, can bring you. It's quite crazy.
No question. When you think of getting to know Coach Feccio in your time here, even though it's just been a year with you within the program, what is it about day to day and being around the teammates you're around and the program expectation to also the development side? What has been different here than, not to say it's always been different from where you've been, but what have you really embraced about the player development side here at Southern and how it's gotten you more to your goals? You said, hey, I wanted to come here to be a professional golfer. How that's continued to shape you?
I mean, yeah, I think that's one of the most important things is just personal development. And I think that's something that's sometimes a little overlooked at just in college athletics in general, I think, because, I mean, obviously college athletics is so competitive, so everyone needs to perform, everyone wants to play well, everyone wants to perform. And I feel like Coach has been honestly amazing in that. He's someone that takes a lot of pride in that, in player development, making players better. That's one of the first stats he gave me, actually, is that when we were talking like in the recruitment process, that's one of the first things he talked about is like all the guys that are coming back, like that were here for 2 years, they improved over the last year, and that's something that he prides himself on. And I think that we're a program that prides ourselves on just improving every year and every tournament. We want to get better, and I mean that's the goal eventually, to become the best player you can be, I guess.
How would you describe the year you've had when you think back to when it started way back into the fall to now here we are, week of the championships? What would you say when I ask you, hey, what are you most proud about to this point? What would it be? What are you most proud about what you've been able to do this year?
I mean, I'm very proud of the hard work that we've been putting in. I mean, we're a very hard-working team. I mean, like I said, we all work our tail ends off to get to our goals. I mean, we've been able to get a lot of good finishes in. You know, me personally as a player, I've had a lot of good finishes. I think I'm kind of proud at currently being the #1 ranked newcomer in the MVC and the second ranked player in the MVC. I'd love to see that change into the #1 spot
Yeah.
after next week. That's definitely a little goal of mine going into next week. But yeah, describing the whole year, I think it's been a whole learning experience. I feel like I grew as a player, also as a person. I feel like not only coach, but also like my teammates have been great in that, and like we really try to push each other and make each other better players, but also better people, and that's lovely, I think.
You mentioned those rankings and where you sit now and the ultimate drive that you have to say, hey, I want to be #1 of all of it at the end of next week. And you get that opportunity this weekend. But what do you believe Anthony has when you head into this year? And everybody, I think we all have high expectations of ourselves, or you should. Not to say, like, are you surprised by what you did? Because it can somewhat take a little bit offensive, man, like, don't think you can reach those. But did you, when you set out to this year, where you're at now, what's the opportunity in front of you? Like, was this all like, yeah, I no doubt believe if I can put in the work, all of this can definitely come to fruition?
Personally, at the beginning of the year, I wasn't really focused on those things. I think my focus as a player is just to improve every single day. Because like I said, the main goal in my life is hopefully to become a professional golfer. But as the year progresses, you kind of get a little sense of like, hey, I'm in the running for these kind of awards, and now it's like I really believe I can win those, and I want to. And over the last couple of weeks, months, even maybe, I really start believing that. I personally also think that you cannot reach any goals without believing in yourself that you can do it. I think that's the most important thing, you know, believe in yourself, confidence that you can do that. So yeah, over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, I really started believing even more that I was capable of doing those things and being able to reach those goals. So yeah, I'm excited.
As you go through this week, what are some of the most important things? Of course, getting outside, getting acclimated. You'll ultimately get to Des Moines as well and get used to those conditions. But what's kind of on your list of, hey, I have to take care of these things before you even get to the championship? Like, what's most important for you right now, Anthony, in terms of your preparation side?
I think I personally like where my game's at right now. There are little small parts of my game that I do want to improve, especially looking at the last tournament and the one before that. I think I would like to improve a little bit on my ball striking and my short game. I feel like short game is something that you can always work on as a golf player. It can never be perfect. In general, I think that's what's beautiful about the game of golf is you can never achieve perfection. But yeah, I think also getting myself into a mentality of believing that I can go and win that tournament. Practicing hard, practicing good, gaining some extra confidence going into that week will be very important, I think.
Not just confidence for yourself, but you understand when you kind of carry the target that you do or the banner that you do in representing this group and finishing high on that leaderboard, a lot of guys look up to you as well. What have you enjoyed within the team of the belief factor you have of not just, hey, I know that I can show up this week and perform really well at the championship? What gives you that confidence that, you know, the guys behind you and with you can push you and can be right there with you once the championship starts next week?
No, yeah, exactly. They're definitely with me. I feel like I try, and I think it's obviously not just me. There's a lot of other guys on the team that kind of try to show their confidence and show their belief in this team. I feel like we do a very good job at that. We even had some extra couple of meetings this week, like trying to amp it up a little bit at practice, trying to add to that belief that we have in ourselves and add to that confidence that we should have in order to believe that we can go out and win a conference championship. So
what do you enjoy most about being around the guys when you get to travel? Look, it's a smaller team, of course, right? It's nowhere near as big as a football locker room or even a basketball locker room, but you still get a lot of good times on the road with each other. You get a lot of meals with each other. How would you characterize the group that you've been able to travel with, get to play with, and what it's like to be around them each and every day?
I mean, honestly, they're all amazing. I mean, it's I know a lot of people say that, but it's actually true. I mean, this is by far the best whole team that I've been a part of. It almost feels like you're kind of all brothers. You know, you live together with some of the guys. Like you said, you work towards all these goals together. Sometimes you hate each other for a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no, come on.
No, but it's true. But it's
Yep.
you want to see each other thrive, and you love each other, and it's like it just grows into like a sense of like being brothers, and it's amazing. I mean, we have a lot of banter on the road. I feel like the vibes are good. We focus whenever we feel like we need to focus. Coach definitely helps us out in that. So I think we got a very good chemistry going there. I like it a lot.
Who's the funniest one? Like when you're on the road, like who's someone that no doubt brings the humor? Whether they intend to bring the humor or they are the humor with how they act on the road.
I mean, that might be a different answer. No, I think Oliver's a very funny guy. I like him a lot. So yeah, he brings good vibes, you know.
Do you bring any humor at all? I mean, like, are you always the serious one? Like where do you fit in terms of the personality mix of
I think
the
if
team?
the whole team was here and you'd say I'm the serious one, I think the whole team would be laughing right now.
So that answers it.
No,
yes.
I'm definitely not the most serious one at all times. I like to think that I'm serious whenever I need to be. But no, I try to add in some humor here and there every once in a while.
Hey, you have to, especially on
Definitely.
some long travel rides, which you'll have this weekend to Des Moines. Before I let you go, Anthony, these are always, I don't know if they're fair questions to ask because they're hypotheticals, but what would it mean for you and the team to find a way to be at the top of that leaderboard at the end of the championship and to make it back-to-back years and to add to, you know, the standards here, and Coach Feccio is a big reason why those standards are high.
Definitely.
What it would mean to reach that and to add to what's been a really good run here for Saluki Golf.
I mean, it would mean everything. It's amazing. I mean, like I said, it's something you work towards the whole year. I mean, at the beginning of our school year, at our meeting, we wrote that down as one of our main goals, is trying to win a conference championship. And now, even hearing you talk about it, I mean, it just excites me. You get a chance to be part of just a little piece of history of Saluki athletics history. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it would be quite exciting to be able to achieve that, and then hopefully advance and even make it as far as we can. I mean, that's hopefully conference championship is not where the road ends for us. So yeah, I'm really excited.
No question. And Saluki Nation is excited to watch you, Anthony. It's been fun to watch your numbers and to see what you've done this year.
Really
and
appreciate that.
Can't wait for the championship here in Des Moines later on the weekend. Again, starts on Sunday, and we'll go through Tuesday for those that want to follow along. Safe travels out, Anthony.
Thank you very much.
Bring some humor. You on that road trip out,
I'll
and
try.
and not just bring some humor, but have a really good tournament, brother. Can't wait to watch you play.
Definitely will. Thank you very much.
Once again, that was Anthony the Shooter. We're going to take a timeout. This is game day for Saluki Baseball. Head coach Lance Rhodes stops in to preview the Belmont Bruins, which that series begins later on tonight. This is Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Polyize of Carbondale.
Get there. No. Probably cut that one. Try it again. What's up, Saluki Nation? I'm Griffin Cato, and this is Saluki Baseball mic'd up. Skate! It's just unacceptable. That's unacceptable. That can't happen. Let's be respectful. Who are we going after? Who are we targeting?
I don't target anybody.
I think we target Frizz. Just scoot a route for me. Yeah, like a little, something short. This is how you practice. You don't think this is what Brady did when his boys were hurt? Exactly. Pressure on everything right now, like throwing the football, there's pressure. Catching a fly ball, there's pressure.
Absolutely.
It's a privilege, though. Question of the day.
Yeah.
What's your major?
Business analytics.
Yeah? What's your favorite part about business analytics? Just analyzing business? Look at that. Are they lower body rolling? It's so professional. The scissors this guy was using to cut my hair, ridiculous.
Go to Ryan, dude.
Never seen anything like it. Heads up. You all right?
What's going on?
Yeah, nothing. Not a whole lot. Haven't seen you much today. That's right at me.
Ooh.
You ladies all right?
Always.
Quick, what's your favorite street in Toronto?
Definitely Young Street.
Why Yonge Street?
A lot going on, you know. Just got Eaton Center.
Yeah. No, Yonge Street's good though. I like Yonge Street. Queen Street East.
Cut that.
I like Queen Street East a lot. It's like Carbondale's version of home hardware cleanup crew. I don't need anything.
And love, bro.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs love.
See, that's the motivation right there. Yeah, thank you. I knew you could do it. I knew you could do it.
Good, and you?
Not so bad. Yourself? You good? Good. You? You're good? I'm good.
Big thanks to head coach Justin Feccio and Anthony DeShooter from Saluki Men's Golf. Starting off the show today, they have the Valley Championships this weekend as they're going to try to go back-to-back for Missouri Valley Conference titles. Now we get to welcome in on game day head coach Lance Rhodes. As Salukis was going to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but now it'll be Thursday and doubleheader Friday. I mean, it wouldn't be a home weekend at Itchy Jones Stadium without having the classic doubleheader this year, Coach Rhodes.
Yeah, it's the weather's been frustrating, and it's even more frustrating. Like yesterday on a practice day, I mean, just gorgeous. Sun's out, perfect weather. It's like, man, we need that on a game day, and but that's just part of playing spring baseball. This year has been a little more as far as having to make changes and things like that, and I think where it's like probably tough is we just have no consistency on our starting rotation as far as game days. I mean, we've had guys throwing on Thursdays, on Sundays, on Mondays, on Saturday. Like, it's just been so ever-changing every week that we've played. And, just from a routine standpoint, like, it makes it hard to get into that groove as far as like starting. When do you throw your bullpen? I mean, we got guys who haven't even been able to throw like a consistent bullpen for the last 3-4 weeks because it's like, okay, I'm 2 days short on rest, so I just need to throw a few pitches so I can bounce back. Or we're looking at the weather and we're not sure yet on their bullpen day when they can throw. So it's been a little bit of a challenge.
When I ask you that, when I say that, I don't want to imply any sort of excuses over the last couple of weeks, and you be first and foremost. There are a lot of things that you want to see your team clean up, and we'll get to that. But can you, for our fans who maybe don't understand when you're like, oh, their bullpen days are off, or in terms of that typical week setup, like how have you tried to work with Coach Tribby on – look, it's going to be out of sync, but to try to not make it as drastic. But, again, the schedule is what the schedule is, so you're going to have guys with those bullpen days that are a little bit out of whack, and then, of course, guys who ultimately pitch on days that maybe aren't necessarily normal.
Yeah, I think where it's been tough is, like, a bullpen day isn't just to throw a baseball and, like, throw 40 pitches or whatever. We're trying to go into that day and really work on something that needs to be fixed or, whatever it is for that particular pitcher. And you need to be able to throw 30, 40 pitches in that bullpen in order to be able to actually work on something, feel like you got something changed, accomplished, and be able to go into the next start feeling better. But whenever you're not sure if you're going to have, 1 day of rest in between your bullpen or much shorter time than you normally have, you got to be very conservative on how many pitches that you actually throw. And it's, when you're in that, 15, 20 range, like there's just not much time there that you can actually work on something and really make a bunch of changes. So I think that's where we've been caught at is like we need to be on a consistent routine and have those days in between our bullpen in order for us to be ready 100% for our start. But then also we need that window there in order for us to be able to work on the things that we need to in a bullpen, and we just haven't had that time, and that's why it's kind of been frustrating.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat our pregame conversation from Tuesday before Arkansas State, but one of the areas I asked you, say, hey, what's a takeaway from the weekend in Terre Haute? And it was an area that you have talked about at times this year where, look, when you show up to the ballpark and you just get beat and a team, is better than you that day, those are days where you can leave and be like, hey, give them credit. They beat us, and they just played better than us on that day. It's the days when you leave the ballpark and you go, my goodness, there are so many self-inflicted wounds that if we clean up, you're nowhere near that type of situation. It's not to disrespect anybody who you have played. How has your team to this point been responsive to that message, Coach Rhodes, and what you continue to relay to them? Because against Arkansas State, it was a lot of the similar things that you have been preaching here over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, our guys are 100% aware of what's going on, and I think they're frustrated with it too. And I think it maybe is a little bit of sometimes when you know exactly what the mistakes are, like maybe they're trying to overcorrect it so much that it's just causing more mistakes. But everybody's frustrated. I mean, there's not many people in that locker room that's in a great mood right now. I can tell you that, and that's okay. There's nobody happy about what's going on, and we've got to be able to correct some things on the fly really quickly, and the problem is like we all understand how important the games are right now, and we can't make that pressure crumble our performances when we're out there on the field. Like, we have to relish that pressure and play well under that pressure, and that's what it's going to feel like in the tournament. That's what it's going to feel like in playoff baseball. So we've got to be able to learn to enjoy that pressure, enjoy the moment of, like, if I make this play, we win. If I don't make this play, we lose. And we've got to be able to come out and make those plays whenever that pressure's on.
Your seasons are so long, Coach Rhodes, that it's really almost, I don't want to say it's impossible, because we all see teams that do really well. But I think even the teams that are in the elite of the sport, at some point in time, there's going to be adversity that they're going to have to face. There's going to either be a week or two that they're going to have to fight through where they're not playing their best. So even though you're going through some struggles at this moment, and you said a frustrated locker room, look, you don't want that to be the norm. You want it to be a locker room where you're turning the tide, you're getting and you're stacking really good days. But it's not abnormal where you're going to have to go through some sort of stretch like this where you're really fighting yourself because of how long your seasons are, and the other factors too, whether when your games are played. I mean, those are uncontrollables, but no doubt those factor into those stretches too.
Yeah, I mean, and we're frustrated because our expectations are really high.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a lot worse. I mean, we're 24-12 or whatever it is,
Yep.
and we're frustrated. And one thing I think is tougher now across the board, whether it's with the new transfer rules that have been in place over the last couple years, coaches that are just more invested in the sport, but like the parity in college baseball is better than it's ever been. Now, I'm not saying everybody's at like an elite level, but there's nobody that's necessarily bad. Where in the past, in 5-6 years ago, you could catch some teams that just weren't going to beat you. And whereas now, like, every single time you play a game, like, everybody's pretty similar. And if you don't show up and play on that day, like, you can lose. And I think that's what's frustrating is like, it's hard to get on a roll at this day and age in college, baseball, where, you win that, like, 10 games in a row like we did. Like that, I think that's just very unusual. And if you look across the board in college baseball, everybody's kind of very similar in that, 24-12, 20-15, like everybody's kind of, winning and everybody's kind of getting knocked off every now and then. And, losing's tough. It takes a lot out of you, and that's why it's important to win and feel good about yourself and things like that. But I think it's harder than ever to win consistently right now in college baseball.
You said it. Obviously, your team knows that, hey, these are the areas we need to work on. These are areas that need to improve. I know defensively that has been a really main focus for you and your team. When you get into these moments, Coach Rhodes, how do you balance look, you don't hide anything from your players. We talked about how you've had some guys in your lineup that have struggled against left-handed pitching. They know that. You communicate that. You try to work on it to make it better. But specifically defensively, if you want to try new things or, shift things around, whatever that looks like, how do you do it with still building guys' confidence up, where if you make a change, hey, it's trying to better the team and not try to hurt anybody mentally as you go throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that we know is, like, you just got to work hard, right? You got to work through it. And yesterday was a Wednesday practice before a weekend series right after a Tuesday game. Typically, those are going to be light practices and just kind of trying to, feel good going into the weekend with your bodies. And, we just made a decision yesterday, like, if we're going to lose, like, and we're sore, we'll lose because we're sore. We're not going to lose because we didn't practice. And, we had a long practice yesterday. It was an intense defensive practice, and we're just going to attack it. And if we're going to win or lose, it's going to be because we're prepared to handle whatever plays that we can make. and rather than shying away from it. So we're just going to continue to get after it practice-wise and try to get better while we're playing games, and hopefully the results go in our favor.
You've seen so many positive results this year from a guy like Tyler Timmerman. You bumped him up into the weekend role in Terre Haute. I know it wasn't the length and the outing that he wanted, but now that he's kind of got those first weekend jitters out of the way, the confidence level you still have in a guy like him and how big of a role he's going to play for you on a weekend.
Yeah, we know he can be good. And, you know, it was one of those kind of hopefully unusual outings there at Indiana State. And, again, it would be nice for him to have a bounce-back day today and really go set the tone for the weekend. And we're going to need it. I mean, you look at the amount of innings that we threw on Tuesday. Everybody's been kind of used, and, you know, we need some length out of our start today. And it'd be nice for him to go out there and get us off to a good start, kind of just set the tone, right? We need somebody to set the tone that kind of goes in our favor a little bit. And we know he can do it. He's more than capable of going out there and dominating this game today. And, you know, our expectation is that's what he's going to do.
You're going to be the only one on the show today. Didn't want to bring a player on a game day with this weekend upcoming. But for when you look at the back end of your bullpen this year, I don't know if, and I know every team at times has find some struggles in their bullpen, but Sam Frizzy and Petrie, I feel, have been really guys you can rely on this year. How have their roles really continued to develop throughout the year, and how big those two guys are going to be as well to your pitching staff?
I mean, I feel like every time we turn the ball over with the lead or even tied, that we're going to win. I think they've been super consistent, and that's the biggest thing that we try to harp on, and that's the word that we use all the time is just consistency. And they've been consistent on like the higher end of it,
Yeah.
which is nice. And but every time you give them the ball, like you feel like you know what you're getting. And that's just kind of what we're trying to strive for throughout the pitching staff, whether it's in the lineup on the defensive side. It's just like, let us know what we're going to get, right? And then we can make, changes if we need to make changes and things like that. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like those guys are going to be good down the stretch. Like, I think they're going to be a big role on us finishing strong. And, hopefully we can add a couple more, to the mix. We're using guys, and they're all showing flashes of why they're out there, but we just got to have that more consistently, and we'll be fine.
It's hard to find teams at any point they're really at full strength, Coach Rhodes. Injuries are a part of a season as it goes along. Your team's no different. You've had them. You continue to shift things around. Guys give opportunities. As the year goes along, with Caleb Hall at least being out for this initial period, who does that really kind of, I don't want to say it puts any pressure on one individual or not, but how does that open the door for an opportunity for whomever it is to say, hey, Coach Rhodes, I'm ready for this opportunity whenever it's needed?
Yeah, there's guys like Tate Lewis who I think is just, they're just chomping at the bit to, get at bats. And, he had an unbelievable pinch hit there on Tuesday night. And so there's definitely guys that we've been talking about over the last, week or so, man. How can we get these guys in? The biggest challenge right now is like I think there's guys that are swinging the bat well enough to deserve to play for sure. We've got to also be able to balance and put a lineup out there on the field that can defend. And that's where we're kind of getting caught right now is like we just haven't defended well enough. Especially like with our struggles on the mound and our struggles defensively right now, we're trying to not just worry about how we're going to score a bunch of runs, but how are we going to score enough, but then also not just give up a bunch because we've got a defense out there that can't make plays. And, it's easy to sometimes say, well, let's throw this guy at first base or let's throw this guy in right field. But like there's no position in college baseball that you can just throw somebody out there and have high expectations for them to really be good at it. And, all those positions have like their own unique, tough situations. And like, for instance, this weekend, like just to say, let's throw somebody out in the outfield. Well, we're going to have 20 to 40 mile an hour wind gusts on these next 2 days. So to just throw somebody that's never really played outfield out there to try to get their bat in the lineup, probably not a good situation because for them to have to go out there and maneuver in the wind and try to catch a fly ball, like you don't know. It might not ever happen, but what happens if the bases are loaded and that happens? Like, and those are the things as coaches that is challenging because you kind of always play out scenarios in your head before the game happens when you're putting the lineup out there, and you're just trying to eliminate those scenarios where like it would cost you a game potentially because you just put somebody out there that you put them in a bad situation, and that's what we're trying to get guys in, but we're trying to balance that too.
I don't think this is probably a really silly question for me to ask you. I don't think it's really a question. It will come off more as a statement, but Matt Shark is a huge part of this team. And, man, with his bat, no doubt, has been a huge consistency. And one of your things, if you said, hey, offense right now is the furthest thing from our issue right now. We are able to score runs. That's going to be okay. I know Shark defensively, it's been a rough last week for him, but that's a guy that you have the utmost confidence in, and there's probably not much you have to say for him. Again, he's going to show you his worth as it continues to go on throughout the year.
Yeah, I mean, Shark is the guy who he is super passionate about us wanting to win, and I think right now, like, he just feels the weight on his shoulders because, like, he is trying to make every single play so we can win. He's trying to hit every double, home run, or knock every RBI in. Like I think he's feeling the weight of that as a leader, as somebody who is very passionate about us trying to win and seeing, where we've been the last couple of years to turning this thing around. And I think he's just like almost putting too much self-pressure on himself, and he's just making mistakes because of that. And he's got to understand, he's got to look to his left, he's got to look to his right, and understand that if you don't get it done in that moment, then the guy behind you is going to get it done, and that's okay. I think he's just kind of take a breather, and he's going to be just fine.
Let's look towards Belmont this weekend. I never like to describe league schedules like a front-loaded schedule or back-loaded schedule because, as you described, I mean, if you don't show up any weekend, you can easily lose that series within the league. But they've already played Missouri State. They've already played Illinois State. They played Indiana State, who's right there in the thick of it, in the middle with you guys as well. They've had a really difficult schedule to this point in league play, coming off a series win against Bradley. They've won their last two series, including against Indiana State back in Nashville 2 weeks ago. Belmont's always kind of had some guys in their lineup that have some pop. And you described the weather dynamics of this weekend, but how do you see their lineup? Is this still a lineup that no doubt still has some power and has the ability to score runs at a high clip?
Yeah, I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on us from the stolen base side of things. I mean, they're stealing a ton of bases this year. They're not necessarily driving the ball over the wall, but that's what kind of evens out the weekend. Like there's not probably going to be any balls that leave the park today or tomorrow with the wind blowing straight in as hard as it's going to be blowing in. So that kind of probably is more in their favor on the offensive side of things because we are a team that's built on extra base hits. So that evens it out. And they also have one of the best pitchers in the league that throws for them. He's not starting tonight, but he's going to start tomorrow. And that's going to be a challenge there. He's thrown really good in league play. And he's up to 95 miles per hour. He's just a really good arm. We've faced him the last 2 years, and you could tell as a freshman 2 years ago that he was going to be really good, and he developed even more last year. And then this year he's throwing like you would expect him to. And they've got a closer on the back end that missed last year due to injury, but the year before was one of the best closers in our league. He's back to throwing really good again. So they've got some pieces there that their record is not good, but they've got some pieces that can definitely beat you if you don't show up and play. So it'll be a challenge, and I think our guys are ready to start winning, and I think our guys will be ready to play.
When I say this, it's one of the areas where you look at the Valley Tournament this year where you were last year in the bottom four of that first day. Well, that was a double elimination part of the bracket. Now it's back to the way it was, where if you don't finish in the top four in the league, not only do you have to play that extra game on Tuesday, which everyone knows that puts you at a great disadvantage, that's now back to a single elimination. I say all that because I think the middle of the league is going to be pretty tight. Coach Rhodes, when you get from, I know Missouri State and Illinois State right now are at the top of the league, still feel like they can be chased down. Don't want to act like those are going to be the lone 2 teams at the top. But when you start getting to that 4, 5, 6, 7 line, it could just be a game or 2 that separates teams once we get towards the end of the month of May, which is why you're going to look back on weekends like this as a team. Hey, this is a great opportunity to try to get any sort of separation.
Yeah, it ain't going to surprise me one bit that last weekend's going to determine who's in the 3-4 game and who's in single elimination. I really think the standings are going to kind of be jumbled up there for pretty much the remainder of the season. I really do. Where we've got to make ground is, and our hope is that, we still finish extremely strong and we have a chance to win the league. Now, we're going to need some help. Like Missouri State's going to need to start losing some games, and we're going to need the other teams to beat them. But outside of, the desire to want to finish in first place, there's not a ton of difference going into the tournament as a 1 seed or a 2 seed. You both get a really good advantage. You get to play somebody that's already played a game. So we're definitely within striking distance of being 1 or 2. And that's our main goal right now, is to be 1 or 2. And if we can, finish strong, we still have Illinois State on our schedule. So I think it's going to be in a position to where when we play those guys, we control our own situation as far as if we knock them off, then we could overcome them and be in a great position to be that 2 seed or potentially take a 1 seed if Missouri State loses some games. So I think where we want to finish is very likely that we still could do that. And then kind of for us, this sounds odd to say worst case scenario, but worst case scenario, we could fall in 3-4 still. We're in a great spot to be 3-4. And 3 and 4 seed, there's still a big advantage because you don't have to play on Tuesday. It's just it kind of stinks that you have to play a really good team right off the bat that hasn't played yet either. So, I mean, it's a tough matchup from the standpoint that you're playing a really good team in our league, but it also is very huge that you don't play on Tuesday in single elimination. So our main goal is to be 1-2, but we definitely got to finish 3-4.
No doubt, and it all starts with an important weekend later on tonight against Belmont at 6 o'clock, and then, of course, doubleheader tomorrow. So we hope Saluki Nation can come out. Looks like the weather outside of it's going to be very windy. Does look like, though, that at least rain's going to stay away. So be sure to come out and support Salukis at Itchy Jones Stadium. Coach, thanks so much for stopping in on here on game day, and let's head out to the ballpark and have a fun night here at Itchy Jones tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the weather is it's gonna feel fine, and it's gonna be a little windy, but hopefully we can get some support out. I know a lot of students are out of school tomorrow, so hopefully some families can come out and bring their kids and have a good night at the park.
No doubt. Coach Rhodes, appreciate the time. We'll see you at the ballpark.
Once
again, that was head coach Lance Rhodes. Big thank you to Justin Fetcho and Anthony DeShooter as well for joining us from Saluki Men's Golf. We will talk to you tonight from Itchy Jones Stadium, everybody. This has been Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Poly Eyes of Carbondale.
This has been Inside Saluki Athletics, presented by Poly Eyes of Carbondale. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Saluki Sports Network.